Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang berbahagia Dr. Hajar Rosnarizah binti Abdul Halim, Pengarah Bahagian Matrikulasi Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia. Yang berusaha Tuan Izhari bin Basar, Pengarah Kolej Matrikulasi Negeri Sembilan selaku pengerusi pengelola Matriculation Entrepreneurship Carnival Mekar 2022. Timbalan-timbalan pengarah Sektor Bahagian Matrikulasi, Pengarah-pengarah Kolej Matrikulasi dan Kolej Mara, Timbalan-timbalan pengarah Kolej Matrikulasi, Ketua-ketua jabatan, Pensyarah-pensyarah pembimbing dan para peserta yang mengambil bahagian, Pensyarah-pensyarah, pelajar-pelajar dan seterusnya sidang hadirin yang menyaksikan sesi webinar pada hari ini. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera, salam Mekar 2022, usahawan berjaya, inspirasi bersama. Selamat datang saya ucapkan kepada para hadirin yang dikasihi sekalian. Sebelum memulakan sesi pada malam ini, eloklah kiranya kita mulakan dengan bacaan doa.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirrabbilalamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma ya Rahman wa ya Rahim. Kami memanjatkan kesyukuran kepadamu kerana mengizinkan kami untuk bersama-sama dalam majlis ini secara dalam talian bersempena Matrikulation Entrepreneurship Carnival 2022, anjuran bahagian matrikulasi Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia di bawah kelolaan Kolej Matrikulasi Negeri Sembilan. Ya Allah, Engkaulah yang Maha Agung. Melalui program yang dianjurkan pada hari ini, Engkau titipkan di hati kami keimanan. Engkau satukan hati antara kami tanpa mengira warna kulit dan suku bangsa. Engkau jadikanlah keberkatan kepada kami supaya terbenih keikhlasan di hati, terbina kesihatan jasmani, terjana akal yang suci, terbuka minda abadi. Lalu darinya ya Allah, dapat kami satukan ramuan ini dalam diri untuk kami menjadi umat yang seimbang dari segi intelek, emosi, rohani dan jasmani. Ya Allah, Tuhan yang Maha Esa lagi perkasa, kami memohon kehadratmu, semoga Engkau jadikan majlis ini sebagai satu wadah untuk kami bersatu padu, bekerjasama dan bantu-membantu dalam kalangan kami. Jadikanlah juga majlis ini sebagai usaha murni kami untuk mengembangkan potensi para pelajar dan membina kerjaya pada masa hadapan. Allahumma ya badi'us samawati wal ard, ya Allah ya Razzaq, kami memohon kelancaran program ini. Jauhilah dari segala fitnah dan kerosakan agar majlis ini dapat disempurnakan dengan jayanya serta mendapat manfaat yang berpanjangan. Ya Munzilal Kitab, ya Allah, jadikanlah perhimpunan kami ini sebagai perhimpunan berkati dan dirahmati, dan jadikanlah perpisahan kami selepas ini sebagai perpisahan yang Engkau pelihara daripada mara bahaya dan keburukan. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzabannar. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wasallim. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Terima kasih diucapkan atas bacaan doa sebentar tadi. Saya, Munira Fatiah binti Muhammad Syahril, selaku moderator bagi program ini, akan menemani anda untuk slot Career Talk yang bertajuk Secret Sauce to Become a Successful Chartered Accountant. Hadirin sekalian, sebelum kita mulakan sesi webinar pada hari ini, hadirin diharapkan dapat memberi kerjasama dengan mengisi link kehadiran yang akan diberikan di ruangan chat pada akhir sesi ini. Link kuis juga akan diberi pada akhir sesi ini. Hadiah akan diberikan kepada pemenang kuis. Untuk makluman semua, kedua-dua link tersebut akan ditutup 30 minit selepas sesi live ini berakhir. Pastikan jangan ketinggalan ya. Hadirin juga dipohon agar memastikan soalan yang diajukan di ruangan chat menggunakan bahasa yang sopan dan bersesuaian. Hadirin sekalian, bersama-sama dengan kita pada hari ini adalah Mr. Leong Foong, panel yang akan membicarakan tentang tajuk pada hari ini iaitu Secret Sauce to Become a Successful Chartered Accountant. Selamat datang Mr. Leong Foong ke Mekar 2022. Terima kasih kerana sudi bersama-sama dalam sesi webinar Career Talk MECAR 2022 pada hari ini. Sebelum kita bersulam bicara, sebelum ilmu menusuk di dada, kata orang tak kenal maka tak cinta. Hadirin sekalian, saya kongsikan serba sedikit latar belakang Mr. Leong Foong. Beliau adalah Ketua Jabatan Kerangka Kompetensi dan Pembangunan Institut Accountant Malaysia MIA yang mengkhusus dalam rangka kerja kompetensi dan piawaian pendidikan antarabangsa. Competency Framework and International Education Standards IES. Beliau pernah menjadi pengurus audit dari salah sebuah firma audit utama di Malaysia. Beliau juga mempunyai pengalaman luas dalam bidang jaminan termasuk audit berkanun syarikat tersenarai awam dalam pelbagai industri. Audit berbilang lokasi serta latihan pematuhan SOX Compliance Exercise. Beliau memegang ijazah sarjana dalam pengurusan kewangan dari University of London dan merupakan Akauntan Bertauliah MIA serta Fellow SCCA. Jadi, sidang hadirin sekalian, dengan kemahiran dan pengalaman Mr. Leong, saya pasti ada banyak manfaat yang dapat kita perolehi dalam membincangkan topik ini. Tanpa berlengah lagi, saya menjemput Mr. Leong Foong untuk perkongsian ilmu bertajuk Secret Sauce to Become a Successful Chartered Accountant. Dipersilakan.
Terima kasih Cik Mudira Fatia selaku moderator kami malam ni ya. A very good evening to all the ladies and gentlemen and to all the students from all the college matrikulasi throughout the nation. Terima kasih ya kerana sudi meluangkan masa malam anda untuk mendengar sharing session hari ini. Sebelum saya bermula, bagi pihak MIA, saya ingin mengucapkan ribuan terima kasih kepada Kolej Matrikulasi Negeri Sembilan, terutamanya Madam Fizi, Madam Yati, Madam May dan Encik Faizul kerana menganjurkan sesi taklimat malam ni. A very good evening to all of you once again. Okay, today's session will be a very interesting one because you are doing it at night. And I'm sure all of you had your dinner. I hope all of you had a very wonderful dinner. And for those who have not had a chance to have your dinner, by all means, you can always enjoy this sharing session together with your dinner time. So technically today we'll be sharing more with all of you about what MIA is all about, and also about the accountancy profession in Malaysia. And it is definitely our pleasure to be part of the Matriculation Entrepreneurship Carnival, which is held today. Alright, just a very humble beginning about myself ya. Sebab saya dapat topik sesi malam ni juga menarik ya, secret sauce to become a successful chartered accountant. Actually, the secret sauce is not much of a secret sauce, but definitely I would attribute this to all the lecturers throughout the nation here and to all the hard work of the students for becoming, for putting all the effort in the examination and becoming a successful accountant. I believe before I start that is really the secret sauce. And technically, before I further proceed with my slide, this is just a humble beginning about my own self. Kalau ada nampak, ada 4 gambar dekat sini sebelah kiri ya. So gambar olah bola, saya rasa ramai telah tontonlah filem ni few years ago kan, filem tempatan. And why do I have this film is because this film is actually filmed in our Victoria institution. And for those who have been to KL, Victoria Institution is one of the oldest school in KL and also in Malaysia. And the field that actually being used to film that movie is in that school. And I did my SPM at the Victorian Institution. And strange enough, I was a pure science student. I was a pure science student whereby my ambition at first is to become a doctor or probably a pharmacist. Okay, I was a pure science student and I did physics, biology, and chemistry. So for those who will be wondering, why the sudden change from science all the way to the humanities, and that is also because probably my passion then changed because I felt being an accountant will technically make you to become a more versatile person, and that will also give you a lot more opportunities for you to explore the world. I will share more in the slides later on. di mana semua student nanti boleh tengoklah pengalaman pekerjaan saya sebelum ni. And then you will also see how diverse the accountancy profession is all about. And after my SPM, I did my matriculation, and then I did my first degree with in Sydney, majoring in accounting and finance. And then I also did my master's in financial management from the University of London, whereby I specialized a lot on corporate finance and also on economics. And then aside from doing my tertiary education, I also did my ACCA professional qualification, whereby I did it with a group of friends. So bersamalah dengan rakan saya kan masa saya mula-mula bermula ACCA paper. So we did it from the very first paper all the way towards the end. And I guess my first ACCA paper was dated more than 20 years ago. And at that time, I guess there wasn't much of the MFRS. And it was more on the MASB back then. So we had a group of friends, and then we told ourselves, let's do all the ACCA papers together. And that is the promise that I made with my friends. And we go along the challenge. Some of us fail, and some of us gave up. And but technically, most of us really preserve right till the end to complete the ACCA qualification. So for those who attend tonight, and if you have passion to do your professional qualification bersama dengan rakan-rakan anda kan, so you can actually make a promise to yourself, you can do it, and no matter how difficult the qualification is, let us do our very best to achieve it. And thereafter, I did my I started my career in the audit profession, whereby I started my work with PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers Malaysia, and then I worked over there for a couple of years, and then I became the audit manager before I decided to move on to a more regulatory role with the Malaysian Institute of Accountants. And if you look at the right side, the MIA logo, the blue color on top, that is the new logo. And for those who are wondering what is the logo down there, that is the old logo that we have for MIA. Okay, that's a very brief introduction about my humble background, and definitely it is a pleasure for me to share more with all of you tonight. And first and foremost, I think technically we need to know who is MIA. Sebab dah lama kan kita dah cakap Malaysian Institute of Accountants, I'm from MIA, but what MIA is all about? So technically, MIA is the statutory body under the Ministry of Finance, and we are established under the Accountants Act 1967 to regulate and develop the accountancy profession in Malaysia. And before I proceed, I believe tadi Cik Munira dah mention kan kita akan ada quiz ya. So di mana quiz soalan-soalan quiz jugalah tertumpu kepada certain slide yang saya tengah present. So sekiranya para hadirin nampak saya tengah fokus sesetengah slide dengan lebih lama ya, ada sedikit tips lah. So maksudnya kemungkinan besar lah ada quiz question daripada sana ya. Okay, and if you look at the Accountants Act 1967, we have Section 22 and 23 of the Act require a person residing in Malaysia to be registered with MIA. So that means if let's say your ambition is to be an accountant, and if you want to be called as an accountant, so sekiranya lah adik-adik dan semua student nak jadi accountant dan digelar sebagai accountant di Malaysia, you have to be a member of MIA. So it is actually mandatory, and you need to be a chartered accountant and to be registered with MIA. So this is quite similar to the other profession, like for example, medical profession. So kita ada doktor kan, so kita ada registered doctor. So if you have lawyer, you have a registered lawyer, whereby the lawyers are being called to the bar and they become advocate and solicitor of the High Court of Malaysia. And for accountant itself, yes, you have to be a member of MIA, and then you will be allowed to be conferred the title of accountant and to use the chartered accountant. So it's actually quite an achievement, and definitely is something that all of us are proud of, especially when your name can use the title C.A.M. So that is the target that I want all of you to achieve, and hopefully all of you will be able to hold on to that, preserve, and become a chartered accountant one day. So without further ado, these are the MIA roles. So technically, MIA roles, they have 2 roles. So kena ingat semua MIA ada 2 role. So they have 2 roles, which is the regulatory role and the developmental role. So when we talk about the regulatory role, we're talking about MIA regulating the entire accountancy profession. That's because we actually register the members. So maksudnya semua accountant perlu didaftarkan dengan MIA, and we also registered all the member firms. And when we talk about the member firms, we talk about the audit firms and the non-audit firms. And the member firms, like for example, we talk about all the large audit firms or some of the small and medium practices. All of these firms need to be registered with MIA, and that is where we have actually imposed our regulatory role, and that includes things like, for example, the members registration, the compliance with the financial reporting, and even to the extent of enforcement on the non-compliance with regards to the regulatory requirement. And why do we really stress a lot on the regulatory function? Is because we wanted to safeguard the public interest, and also we need to uphold the profession's reputation. So for example, so sekiranya lah kalau maybe some of you have interest to invest, nak beli shares kan, so we always rely on what we call as the audited financial statements of the company. And that is where when you look at the audited financial statements, we kind of like we gauge and we infer the financial standing and the financial performance of the organization. And that is where the public actually place a lot of reliance on those audited financial statements. And that is where the accountants, you yourself as the accountants, are technically are in charge and also technically empowered to safeguard the public interest. So you all the students here tonight, you all play a very, very important role towards the economy of Malaysia and also to safeguard our public interest. And on the right side, we talk about the developmental role is whereby we develop the baseline competencies for the accountancy professional. We offer training like the continuing professional development. So just for all of you who are wondering, my target kena belajar, lepas tu kena ambil peperiksaan, lepas exam semua dah kiranya merdeka kan. So actually tak. So even when you are an accountant, when you are a chartered accountant, kita taklah merdeka juga sebab kita kena update accounting knowledge sepanjang masa kami lah. So it's a lifelong learning, and that is where the continuing professional development is all about. And more importantly, we are upholding the importance of building the talent pipeline. So what do we do in the talent pipeline is whereby we try to do our very best to inspire the younger generation to become chartered accountant, and that is what we are doing tonight. And a shout out to the College Matrikulasi Negeri Sembilan, because they have done a very good job here to do this nationwide event, and there's a lot of students nationwide are listening to this. I hope one day when all of you are a chartered accountant, and then you will be the speaker. I'm very happy to do that. And maybe 6 years down the road or 8 years down the road ataupun 10 tahun kemudian kan, so maybe adik-adik nak jadi chartered accountant, one day be a speaker, and that time maybe you can tell me, no Leong, saya dah jadi chartered accountant dah, boleh tak saya bagi career talk hari ni, dan I'll be very happy, and saya akan join career talk tersebut. So by the time, please let me know, and it will be my pleasure and honor to be there to witness your important day in sharing your session with the younger generation. So moving on, this is a bit of a background of MIA. Within the profession, we have our president, Dr. Rurinderjit Singh. We have our vice president, Datuk Bazlan, and also we have our acting chief executive officer, Datuk Haji Muhammad Rizwan Abdullah. And these are the prominent figures of the accountancy profession who is spearheading MIA and also leading all of us here. And in terms of the membership statistics, I'm sure all of you will be wondering, ada berapa accountant dekat Malaysia kan? So kalau di Malaysia kita ada more than 37,000 members. So maksudnya kita ada registered 37,864 chartered accountant di Malaysia. So hopefully this will be something that inspire you to be part of this total number. And we are definitely looking forward to all of you being an accountant to add on to these numbers to contribute to this towards the economy. And I think one of the many burning questions that we always have, how many male accountants and how many female accountants. So interestingly, the statistics actually show that there are more female than male accountants. I'm not sure, is it correct? Maybe Cik Munira might know. In the class ada berapa female student, ada berapa male student kan. So rasanya maybe female lebih ramai lah rasanya. So anyway, during my time, I still remember when I first started off my career, male and female are always the same. They are about the same. And but as of recent years, it has seen an increasing trend in the female students, I believe, and that is the feedback that we receive from most of the universities. And that also translates to the statistics that we have. We have almost 54% of our chartered accountant are female, and 46% are composed of male. But technically speaking, female and male, they're all equally important, and they will definitely do a good job. So it's just a sharing with all of you. So in terms of the employment, we have 4 sectors. So maybe saya bagi sedikit tips ya. Kita ada 4 sektor ya. So for those who are interested to answer quiz. So technically, so these 4 sectors, if you look at it, we have academia, we have commerce, we have public practice, and we have public sector. And terima kasih ya Puan Rohaida ya dekat chat dia, saya nampak beliau juga telah bagi komen more female students in the accounting program, which is true. And definitely I believe this is something that is being translated back to the professional statistics as well. So if you look at the statistics, most of us are involved in the commerce. Nanti saya akan kongsikan lebih lah apa maksudnya commerce, apa dimasukkan dengan public practice, dan apa jenis pekerjaan yang terlibat ya dalam public practice tersebut. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. So before I go into the 4 sectors, I wanted to share with you what is accountancy profession. This could be potentially a quiz question. Okay, so technically, what is accountancy profession? We're talking about these few core areas like the financial literacy. We talk about the data-driven analysis. We talk about the financial stewardship. We talk about the sustainability. So you look at the accountancy, gone are the days that we talk about debit and credit. So kalau let's say adik-adik ingat lagi kan, mula kita belajar accountant, so kita always belajar lah debit dengan credit kan. And just wondering, do you also wonder why do we call DR and CR? I'm sure in your accounts, when you do your work, we have DR as debit and CR as credit, right? But why don't we put DT and why don't we put CT? And where is the R like? Why DR means debit? If you look at debit, DEBIT, there's no R at all, right? So technically, that's because if you look back at the old words, the debit is called debitor, and that's why we have the R at the back there. And the creditor is R at the back there, so we have a CR, just to share with you. But those days, we talk about debit and credit, and that's when we have all the calculators. You know, when I first started to do ACCA papers, I still remember when I entered the exam hall, masing-masing ada 2 calculator ya. Saya tak tahu ngapa ya. So they have 2 calculator, but then the clock starts, semua tekan calculator. Saya pun stress dengan bunyi calculator dekat sebelah kiri dan kanan. So but as we move on, things not about calculator anymore. We talk about financial literacy. We talk about things that are data driven. We talk about financial stewardship. That shows that as an accountant itself, all of us have actually moved on. We are no longer talking about the transactional roles. We are talking about a more strategic role. Accountants are playing a very key role when it comes to the strategic decision making. And that's where we have things like financial stewardship and good governance. And we also talk about the sustainability, whereby we talk about the ESG, the environmental, social. So we talk about a lot of different quantitative and the qualitative factors that affects the accountancy profession. I will share more later in the next few slides. And these are the 4 key sectors that the accountants are serving. I will repeat again. Those are public practice, commerce, academia, and public sector. And for those who are wondering what public practice is all about. So the first area is public practice, whereby it talks about profession like statutory auditor, like company secretaries, or tax consultant. So if you heard a lot from your senior who say audit profession is very scary, so you know it entails a lot of long hours, I will share that more with you. That's not as scary as it seems to be. And audit technically falls under the public practice. So if you look at some of the firms in the picture, we have like UHY, we have Mazars, we have Baker Tilly, we have Deloitte, PwC, and so on and so forth. So these are the a number of audit firms that we have in Malaysia. And if you are keen to become an auditor one day, then you'll be involved in what we call as the public practice profession. So moving on to the next slide, we have the commerce and industry. So if you are keen to join the commerce industry, maksudnya sekiranya lah anda tidak berminat nak jadi auditor, don't worry, you can actually become hold a position like internal audit or even like company accountant or the CEO or the CFO in commerce industry. Commerce industry means any of those organizations out there. Like we have Maybank, we have Petronas, we have Grab, we have Sandabi, we have Food Panda, we have GSC, we have TGV, McDonald's, KFC, so on and so forth. So all of these are in the commerce industry, and each of these professions will have their own expertise and knowledge. And that is where it is very interesting. Being an accountant, you can actually join a lot of different companies out there, and that shows how interesting that entire profession is all about. And moving on for the academia and public sector, for those who are interested to become a lecturer one day, yes, you can become an academia. That's where you become a lecturer, just like Madam Fizi, for example. And then I will always encourage you to get your relevant working experience before becoming a lecturer. And in the public sector, this is where we involve in the government. So things like, for example, accountants, the treasurers, the inland revenue officers, and that is where we also involve in a lot of different public sector accounting practices and their accounting standards. So if you have a lot of interest in those areas, by all means, you can definitely pursue the accountancy profession. And the next one will be how to become a chartered accountant. So technically, in order to become a chartered accountant, there are 3 routes. So the route number 1, right in the middle, if you are from a recognized university accountancy degree program, and upon completing 3 years of working experience through the MIAK, I repeat, 3 years of working experience, you will then become a chartered accountant. Or if you are actually fulfilling the recognized accountancy body program, meaning if let's say you are a full member of the ACCA or the full member of the CPA Australia or the full member of the CIMA, then yes, you can become a chartered accountant upon fulfilling all the obligations. And last but not least, if you are not from a recognized university degree program and you do not have a recognized professional membership, you can always still become a chartered accountant if you have an unrecognized degree that fulfills certain criteria in your degree program, and you will need to take the MIA qualifying examination in order to become a chartered accountant. And this picture potentially could be your quiz question. Okay, so for those who are looking at it, potentially kemungkinan tinggi soalan quiz mungkin timbul daripada slide ni. Okay, moving on, these are the list of the recognized universities in Malaysia. We have university like University of Malaya, UKM, University of Malaysia Sabah. We have like University Multimedia MMU. So these are the list of university. If you recall my earlier slide, so if you are a graduate from this university and upon completing 3 years of working experience, I repeat, 3 years of working experience, you will then be qualified and eligible to become a chartered accountant. All right. So, however, if let's say you are not from this list of universities and you actually take professional examination, so be it CPA Australia, be it talking about the Chartered Accountants Australia and New Zealand, the CANS, the MICPA, MICPA, or even if you're talking about Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, so as long as you are a full member of this professional body, you are qualified to become a chartered accountant, and you do not need that 3 years of experience via MIAK. That's because before you become a member of this body, you are already required to fulfill that 3 years of working experience under the supervision of that particular body. So that means the working experience is extremely essential and important for you to become a chartered accountant. So this is a quick overview of those procedures to become a qualifying examination candidate. So if you are keen to actually take the MIAQE, first of all, you need to register as the MIAQE candidate, and the MIA examination committee will then register you as a candidate. And technically, you will need to register for the QE workshop and the final examination, whereby this particular qualifying examination comprises of 4 papers. And upon completing all the 4 papers of the qualifying examination, you will then need to be qualified and you can apply to become a chartered accountant upon the completion of the CARE program. So again, the 3 years of the relevant working experience is extremely important over here. And these are technically the qualifying examination eligibility requirement, whereby you need to have a degree that is related to the accounting, business, or the finance. The qualification must be recognized by the Public Services Department, JPA, and also the qualification could be approved by the council. And more importantly, the accounting content must not be less than 60%. So that means if let's say you are taking Bachelor of Accounting or Bachelor of Accountancy and Finance, we will then read through your qualification to ensure that your degree must at least have 50% of accounting content, such as the financial accounting, the audit, the taxation, so on and so forth. So a quick overview again. What are the 3 routes again? So number 1, you must be either a recognized university degree program, or you are a full member of a recognized professional body, or If you do not have any of those two, then you can go through the road number 3, whereby you are from an unrecognized degree program. Yes, upon fulfilling the certain criteria that I've mentioned just now, you can take the qualifying examination and become a chartered accountant after fulfilling the 3 years of working experience. Okay. All right, I'll move on now. So technically, what is the CARE program? We have talked about a lot about the 3 years of working experience, but what exactly is the CARE program? Apa CARE program? Okay, yes, Cik Munira? Okay.
Bolehkah kita berehat sebentar untuk laluan iklan?
Boleh. Okay, thank you very much.
Baiklah sidang hadirin sekalian, kita berehat sebentar untuk memulai laluan iklan ya. Stay tune. Baiklah, saya kira ada banyak lagi yang akan dikupas oleh Mr. Leong. Oleh itu, kita kembali meneruskan slot webinar kita pada hari ini dengan perkongsian bermanfaat bersama-sama dengan tetamu jemputan kita, Mr. Leong Foong. Dipersilakan.
Terima kasih Cik Munira. Okay, I hope all of you had a short break and had your drink, or probably for those who are still having dinner, please do continue to enjoy dinner while I do my best to continue to attract you with regards to the knowledge of some of the accountancy profession and the requirement. So we have talked a lot about the 3 years of working experience. Tadi saya dah share kan berkenaan dengan 3 tahun pengalaman pekerjaan. So ultimately, one of the common question that we have, what do you mean by 3 years of working experience? Does it really have to be accounting, or dia kena taxation ke, ataupun boleh tak saya nak campurkan auditing dengan taxation sebagai contoh, ataupun sekiranya lah saya tidak minat untuk auditing, boleh tak saya gabungkan taxation dengan management accounting? Jawapannya sebenarnya boleh ya, sebab berdasarkan technical competency dekat CARE program, we have 8 technical competencies in totality. We start from auditing, we start from taxation, management accounting, all the way to finance and insolvency. So what is the exact requirement that we have? So technically, if you look at the middle bubble, we need to have at least one area. One area maksudnya lah sekiranya adik nak specialize dalam bidang auditing. So if let's say you specialize in auditing alone, you will need to garner the concept from level 1 all the way to level 3. Or if you wanted to mix auditing and taxation, or probably management accounting and finance, or probably financial accounting and probably taxation. So if you are specializing on 2 technical competence, you are just required to get from level 1 to level 2 only. So I repeat again. So if you wanted to specialize in one technical competency area such as auditing, you will need to get all the way to level 3. Maksudnya memang kena ada pengalaman yang banyak lah dalam satu bidang saja. So if let's say you wanted to have 2 areas of technical competency, then you can do like taxation and accounting, or accounting and finance. So that is where you need to specialize only on 2 areas, and then you only need to go up to level 2. So what do we mean by level 1, level 2, level 3? Level 1 is the more basic knowledge, like for example, more transactional in nature. So if you look about level 2 is more towards a higher difficulty skill set, and the level 3 is the highest skill set out there. So that's where it takes a lot of strategic decision making, and that's why if you wanted to specialize on 2 areas, we give the allowance for you to achieve the level 2 only. And in terms of the generic competency, we have 3 core areas, which are the professionalism and ethical behavior, the personal attribute, and also the professional skill. So being an accountant, it is very important for you to embed the ethical skill sets in you. And ethics are one of the core key competency that is stressed by MIA. And also within the IFAC, we have also had the International Education Standards 4, the IES 4, which talks a lot on the professional skepticism and professional judgment. So if you look at the assessment and verification on the right bubble, so that's where we have our mentor, who is a chartered accountant, and the employer. So the mentor or the chartered accountant maksudnya lah sekiranya adik nak jadi accountant nanti kan, adik akan jadi mentee. So you will have a mentor. So adik akan ada mentor chartered accountant untuk mendidik adik lah. They will guide you to become a chartered accountant, and they will actually show you how can you actually become a chartered accountant. So that means technically speaking, being an accountant, you will definitely have a sifu in you. Definitely adalah master dekat atas untuk mendidik anda lah. So you are always not alone during a journey to become a chartered accountant. So the chartered accountant who is a mentor, you need to verify your technical competency. And it is also important for the employer. Maksudnya sekiranya adik kerja dekat mana-mana company dekat yang saya mention tadi kan. So that company, the employer will need to verify your generic competency. So I'll just repeat again. So if you look at the right bubble there, for the mentor who is a chartered accountant, he or she can verify your technical competency, such as audit, tax, finance, or information system. And while the employer down there, you need to verify your generic competency. And that is where, if you look at the entire chart here, it is a very holistic chart, because being an accountant doesn't mean that you have to be only good in technical. Bukan sajalah cuma nak pass exam ataupun cuma focus on debit and credit kan. But in fact, in the generic competency itself are the soft skill. So that is where being an accountant, soft skills are equally important, because that is how you actually distinguish from one accountant to another. Okay. Moving on, and what benefits will you be entitled to as a MIA member, or rather a chartered accountant in Malaysia? So these are the benefits. So if you look at this core chart here, we have eight boxes here, and potentially kemungkinan tinggi ada soalan quiz daripada sini. So maybe all of you take note, maybe ambil gambar kan. Okay, so technically the member privileges and entitlement here, we talk about the career support, we talk about information service, we talk about lifestyle privilege. So being an accountant, we also reward you with a lot of support and privileges. So such as, for example, even we have the lifestyle privileges, whereby you will have a digital app. And this digital app or your digital membership card can be downloaded from the App Store or the the Google Play Store, and that is where you can actually get extra discount. Like if you wanted to dine in at a hotel, or if you have a certain, you plan to go for a holiday at a hotel, that's where we will give you additional discount. And even being a chartered accountant, if you wanted to purchase certain vehicle or car, so those are also being given as additional discount as an MI member. So being an accountant gives you a lot of benefit, not only on the career support from the technical side, but also we give you a lot of recognition in terms of your lifestyle privileges. Okay, and these are some of the new and the future skill sets required by the accountant to embrace technology. So technically, there are 4 key things that we have done a lot of research, and there are 4 core skill sets required, which is number 1 is on the technology skill set. We can't run away from technology. I believe these days the students are extremely good. Kalau ada apa-apa app baru kan, macam WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, saya rasa student lagi mahir daripada kami lah. So in terms of technical skill set, I believe all of you are very good, and it's a matter of time before you become proficient in the IT skill set and the IT tools. And the second important thing is on the communication, the English language proficiency, and the ability to articulate the idea. So being an accountant and being an accounting graduate, you have to have a very good and strong command of communication. So that's how you actually distinguish from one to another. You need to be able to articulate, you need to be able to present your slides, you need to be able to actually convey your message. So that is where, while you are still in your college matrikulasi, if your lecturer give you an assignment, kalau lah ada project assignment kan, atau group project, embrace it, excited. So kita kena kita boleh belajar kan, nak pakai Microsoft Excel, Microsoft PowerPoint, and this is a time whereby you are given the chance to present. So don't worry, when I first started to do my presentation, saya pun tidak tahu ngapa lah. Kadang kalau laptop hang, slide tiba-tiba hilang, Atau we lost our word, kita kan takut kan, kita gemuruh. So but technically it's okay. Kita sama-sama belajar dengan rakan-rakan. We share together with our friends. And we learn the mistakes together, we laugh together. So this is how it is so fun in college matriculasi, because we laugh together. We technically make the mistake together, but we learn the good points together. And that is where, if you have a group assignment or you have a group project, always embrace it, be excited, be the one who leads it, and be the one who actually enjoy and understand all the functionality. Because upon your graduation, when you go out to the market there, that is where the employers will ask you, do you know how to use this Microsoft Office application? Do you know how to use the accounting software? Do you know how to use the audit software? Can you communicate? Can you actually articulate your idea? So these are all the key skill sets required out there in the market. And not only that, if you look at the third box there, critical thinking, creativity, strategic, and the analytical skill sets, all of these are very, very important, because technically speaking, as an accountant, you need to have a lot of professional judgment. You need to have a lot of good critical thinking skill set, so that whenever you face a problem, you are able to address those in a very holistic manner. And more importantly, I will always stress a lot is that our accounting standards, the Malaysian financial reporting standards, the MPERS. So technically, all of these accounting standards are principle-based in nature. What do we mean by principle-based? Principle-based means that a lot of things require interpretation. A lot of things require your understanding. So you need to understand the accounting standard to interpret them. Like for example, depreciation. What is the depreciation of that particular motor vehicle? How many years should we depreciate the motor vehicle? Or for example, you have an iPhone, iPhone 7 or iPhone 8. How many years of depreciation should I depreciate the iPhone? The moment we have iPhone 12, the moment we have iPhone 13, sudah tentulah iPhone 7 nilai dia akan susut kan. So this is how, as an accountant, you need to interpret how to determine the useful life. So it's very interesting. So being an accountant, not only you actually exercise your accounting knowledge, you use it in your life. You use it to know how to practice it out. Even being an entrepreneur, so sekiranya lah kalau anda jadi accountant, tak nak jadi auditor, you want to have your own business. So technically, you can even open a Ramly burger store. So you have a Ramly burger store. This is a good example that I always share with the students. And some of them actually really like the idea. Because as an entrepreneur, you actually use your accounting knowledge. Take for example, you open a Ramly burger store, you need to buy your burger, you need to buy the bun, roti kan, kena beli patty semua. So all of these burger are your stock. Those are your inventory. So you can't buy so many. Mengapa? So because they have expiry date kan. So the more you buy the bread or you buy the burger, they have expiry date. If you buy too many, then they will all got rotten by the end of the day, it will can't sell. So this is where you determine the useful life of your asset. You don't buy so many of your stock. And then at the same time, when you buy the bun, when you buy the burger, so you always think, should I buy by cash or should I buy by credit? Should I actually make cash purchases or should I actually make credit purchases? So technically speaking, so you use by your accounting knowledge to determine. So when I open a Ramly burger store, if I don't have enough cash, if I use all my cash to buy the bun and the burger patty, so technically I can't do anything because I got no cash. Why not I mix it? I use a bit of credit purchases and then I buy my burger. And that's where whenever I make my sales of the bun. So when I make a sale, those are sales, right? So what we do when we do the sale, we debit cash, we credit revenue. So that's what we do. We credit income of that sale of the burger, we debit cash. So technically, you use that accounting knowledge. So it's a very simple entrepreneurial skill, but yet you adopt back that accounting knowledge into your business. So again, I'm sure all of you have learned, we have no credit sales, we have cash sales. So if you sell your burger by cash, you will get cash. But if you sell by credit, means there are a lot of debitors. You have a lot of debtors who will actually buy your burger, but you don't have cash. You need to collect back the cash from a debtor. So all of these are technically your accounting knowledge. You learn your accounts for your book and you use it in your real life. This is where we talk about the financial literacy. We talk about the communication skill set. And rest assured, whatever things that you learn today, semula, termasuk depreciation ke, asset ke, all of these are really part and parcel of your life. And I really, really remember this term from the day I did my first accounting more than 20 years back until now. asset is always equals to liabilities plus owner's equity. So this is something that you always embrace because you always balance up, your particular knowledge in your business. And when one day you wanted to exercise your accounting knowledge into a business, this is how it is being done. And it's definitely a very fun, profession. And you have all chosen the right topic and also the right pathway, to kickstart your career. So moving on, these are some of the other important skill sets which are being published by other professional body. But technically speaking, those are very much the same that what we have shared just now, including things like your technical competency, your EQ, the emotional intelligence, the digital skill sets, the experience. All of these are equally important when we actually impart our accounting knowledge. And I really, really like, all of you, some of you have shared accounting is part of life, like what Pan Rohaida says. Yes, definitely. Because accounting is technically really part and parcel of what we are doing. Even when we buy something, when we sell something, or if you wanted to operate the business, this is how we actually exercise our professional judgment. So these are a quick overview on the critical skill set, which I've already covered in detail in the earlier slide. So I'll move on in the interest of time. And for those who are wondering one thing, I think this slide is very important. And I wanted to share this because a lot of times we talk about technology. Jugalah terdapat banyak berita yang mengatakan teknologi di mana accountant tidak diperlukan lagi disebabkan teknologi. So this is definitely wrong and this is not correct at all. I wanted to address your concern today because if you look at the critical occupational list, the COL, as released by the Talent Corp, whereby MIA actually contribute a lot of feedback to the Talent Corp on an annual basis, accountant and auditors are the top 20 occupation most sought after. And I'm proud to say that accountant continues to be a critical occupation for the many years that CO has been established. So if you are worried that, accountant tidak diperlukan lagi is wrong because technically you are the important people and you are the one who is needed in the nation. So a lot of things that we talk about the technology, about whether the accountants are necessary or not. So if you look at this picture, it's a very good example. It's a very interesting picture from the ADEX. And if you look at the traditional technology, right on top on the first row, we have TV. We have a radio. Those days we use a lot of radio, and we have those days we have cassette. And we don't have a computer. So back to my early days, I don't have a computer. And until, moving on to the secondary, I started to really witness a computer. And that is where we have a big diskette. That big diskette is not the floppy small one. It's a very big squarish diskette. And if some of your parents may also have a very big disk that you can actually use it for the computer. So those are those days. And today's technology, we talk about social media. This is where you guys are the expert. And you have online review before you book a hotel. You check if you check with the online website, the booking.com. What are those reviews on the hotel, and what are the emerging technology? The emerging technology are things like iBeacons or the RFD, whereby it is so advanced. Like for example, if you are holding a phone, and you have actually included your data in the phone. Let's say you are a female and your age is around 20 to 23. So when you walk past a Nike shop and the Nike shop identify you as a potential customer, they will feed you with that message. They will send a message to your phone. They will say, look, Nike is around you. Nike is offering 20% discount for female or ladies shoes. So this is how things move. This is how marketing move, and this is how they actually evolve and change things. And why I wanted to share this is because I wanted to show to all of you that technology is technically changing, and that's where we need to evolve in order to be able to compete among all of us. And before I move on, also another important thing that a lot of question being asked, will accountants be replaced? A lot of things that we talk about, technology will replace accountant. So I wanted to share this very important message. I give an example. So those days before the creation of car, we have trishaw. So last time we have the trishaw. So when the car is created, people are worried. Will the car replace the job of those people in trishaw? The answer is no, because the creation of the car creates factory. And that's where the factory will generate more employees to operate that particular factory. And at the same time, the trishaw will then support the tourism industry. So if you look at it, technology technically creates more job. It doesn't replace the job. It doesn't make you obsolete, but you yourself have to change. You yourself have to embrace the technology. You must know how to use the accounting software, the MyJob, the UBS software. You must know how to understand the application tools, the IT tools, and you can actually use the technology to become more efficient. The key is the technology is not to replace you, but you yourself will actually use the technology to make your job more efficient. That is the key. All right. So moving on, and for those who heard a lot of stories who are senior, accountant life is very boring, panjang masa pekerjaan, long working hours. Answer is not right. If you look at this work-life integration chart, we have things like flex program, we have a flexi time arrangement, we have a flexible work hours. Look at it; those are all flexible work arrangement. And I've been with, I was seconded to one of the firm out there, and they are so cool because they started off work 1 hour earlier each day. So setiap hari lah dia start kerja 1 jam lebih awal. So dari hari Isnin hingga hari Khamis kita kerja lebih 1 jam. But that 1 hour is included in your bank. It's like 1 hour extra for you. So 4 days kan, so kita ada 4 jam. So that 4 days, 4 hours will then be pushed to Friday, whereby the Friday afternoon you don't have to work. So you technically work half day on the Friday. So all of us are really enjoying that kind of lifestyle. So there's a lot of flexibility and a lot of work-life integration for the accounting profession out there. So it's definitely not a boring profession, and it's a very good profession. And having said that, I also wanted to share a little bit of my humble experience, sedikit sebanyak lah pengalaman pekerjaan saya sebelum saya join MIA. And these are some of these work that I've done with some of the companies. So if you look at it, this is a land rig stock count. So this is a very interesting experience because I was sent to Indonesia, and I actually went to Surabaya, and whereby it is around a 2-hour jeep drive from the airport all the way to the Lamongan port. So at the Lamongan port, this is what we do. And we actually count the land rig stock count. We count the screws there. We look into the equipment. We look at the material. Because the land rig is so heavy, dia berat. So land rig tersebut, dia kena stop dekat Lamongan dulu, pelabuhan, before they move on to the sea. Because it's no way for these heavy materials to be transported via aeroplane. Tak boleh. So dia kena ada kapal lah. So it's being done through shipping. And as an accountant, you will go there to do the stock count. And it's very, very cool because to be honest, in your real life, how often do we see land rig kan? Kita jarang tengok land rig kan? So this is an opportunity for you to see the land rig. So being an accountant, you will also be exposed to the experience of doing stock count. And land rig is what they use it to drill oil, to drill oil from the sea there. So you look at the middle picture, this is the place that I stay. Of course, bukan gambar asal ya, saya Google daripada website. And because that time tak ada iPhone, tak ada camera phone, so I tak boleh ambil gambar. So that time we don't have a picture. So this is the picture I got from the website. I technically stayed there, and we did a lot of a stock count. I recall it was at night, and I used the torchlight. Torchlight. Then we count the screws, we count the land rig. It's so cool, and we can feel the breeze of the air from the sea. And it was very nice because this is experience that I really wanted to share. When I was in Lamongan in Surabaya, and I took the 2-hour jeep drive to the port, so I can see a lot of stalls by the roadside. So those stalls are very small stalls, ada gerai-gerai lah dekat sepanjang jalan lah masa saya naik jeep daripada airport tersebut ke pelabuhan. So dekat semua store tu saya nampak ramai family yang menjual benda sama. Mereka ada satu botol, it's like mineral water. So those are used mineral water, and they are actually selling petrol. So it's very sad and disheartening to see that, because you can see the whole family. Memang satu keluarga, some they are holding baby, some they are holding a very young kid, and they are all studying. Some of them are studying, some of them are not. And then the entire family technically rely on the sale of the bottle of petrol along the road. It's a very sad to see that. And also from one store to another, they are technically selling the same thing. So you can see the same family who are selling the used mineral bottle, and they use it with petrol. And worst thing is because after a few kilometers, and then you can see there's a petrol station. So you know how hard life is over there, but they are still doing it. Why they are doing it is because they wanted to actually give a chance to the younger generation to be able to continue with the education. And that is where I wanted to share with you, that moment when I see that, I feel so touched because I can see some of the babies are there, some of the families are there, and they work really, really hard for the benefit of the family. And so that's why, for us today here, we are able to use internet. We are able to listen to the career talk. We are able to have a gadget or an electronic device, be it a phone or be it a laptop, to be able to listen to career talk with the support of all your lecturers. We should be really thankful. So we should be very, very thankful. And if let's say some of us are facing challenges in your life, so I hope that story can inspire you, because those family are so striving just to give education and food to the children. And I hope, for you yourself as an accountant, when you are an accountant one day, please do help back your lecturers, contribute back to the college matrikulasi, contribute back to the university, contribute back to your parents, and you must always remember you are able to do a better world for the other people. And there are a lot of people who are unfortunate than us, so we are very thankful, no matter what we have. As long as we have the opportunity to move on, we are more than happy to do it. And my last slide, okay, before we end our career talk session here today, okay, these are a couple more things that I've done as an accountant auditor, whereby I went to the power plant to actually do the measurement of some diesel. And you need to go there in the morning, because if you go there late in the afternoon, when the sun comes up, dia dah panas lah, so nanti dia akan mengawal. So those petrol diesel will actually, it will evaporate, and this is very cool. So as an accountant, you will get a chance to go to the power plant to do all these things. And I also have the opportunity to be involved in the manufacturing factory, whereby we did a lot to see how metals are being done. Just like how a metal table is being done, we have the hot roll coil, we have the cold roll coil, how they process that particular material to become a metal. And I also had the opportunity to work with one of these theme park. We audited this group, and this how we look at how the revenue of the theme park is being calculated, how we actually look into the business is being operated in those theme parks. And also, we have the chance to look into some of my other practices when it comes to the SOX compliance, whereby we look into the crude oil prices and also the oil and the diesel. So these are very interesting knowledge for those who wanted to know how the oil prices move about and how do we actually manufacture, have the oil prices being calculated all the way. And interestingly speaking, I also audited a diaper company. So being an auditor who has audited diaper company, saya pun dah pandai lah sekarang sebab dah jadi bapa kan. So anak-anak pun dah ada. So I also know how to choose diaper. And of course, it's very interesting. Being an accountant shows you have a lot of different experience that you can involve. Not only just about debit and credit, you can involve in a lot of funny industry like diapers. You are look into crude oil brand, theme park. We have power plant. So all of these are technically interesting experience that you can actually share. And with that, I will conclude my career talk session today. And before I hand back over to the moderator, Sheikh Munira, I wish to thank all of you again for your attention. And I'll be more than happy to address any questions that you have. Thank you very much. Go back to you, Sheikh Munira.
Terima kasih Mr. Leong atas perkongsian yang sangat berinformasi dan menarik tadi. Baiklah, sekarang saya buka untuk sesi soal jawab. Jika ada sebarang pertanyaan, sila tulis di ruangan chat. Nampaknya kita ada soalan. Soalannya adalah daripada Aisyah. How to be committed in study accounting?
Yes, thank you very much. It's a very, very good question from Aisha, how to be committed in studying accounting. Definitely, it requires a lot of patience and a lot of perseverance when you study accounting. More importantly, do not give up. Because being an accounting student myself, it is always very weird. So very weird, why do I say that? Is because, for example, when you do a balance sheet, no matter how you do a debit and credit in examination, you always can't balance your balance sheet kan. Kita tak boleh balance. So often we always mengapa tak boleh balance? I debit RM10, I credit RM10. End up tak jadi balance juga. So you always run by RM1. This is a very good mystery. But does it really matter? Answer is no. Because more importantly is you must always understand the concept of it. When we did the accounting, when I was studying accounting last time, I always tell myself, even though I can't balance the balance sheet or I don't understand, you must always be patient, continue to maintain your focus, and you must continue to preserve. And more importantly, when you study accounting and how to maintain the commitment is that you don't memorize. You should never memorize accounting. You should always understand the concept, because one of us always shared asset is equals to liabilities plus your owner's equity. So a lot of concept derive from balancing the left and the right side. If you understand the concept of it, why do we need to do it, then you will not need to memorize it. The moment you start to memorize it, the moment you change the concept or you are able to change or tweak a certain information, you may not be able to embrace it. So the key is that you must always remain patient. Try to have a common understanding of the concept. You have to have a very good understanding of that particular accounting or subject area, and that is how you are able to can maintain your commitment to study accounting. And more importantly, don't give up.
Kita ke soalan seterusnya, iaitu daripada Faizul Amri. Adakah pelajar pendidikan perakaunan boleh menjadi accountant?
Okay, thank you, Faizul Amri, for the question. The answer, yes. If you are a student from the accounting field, and like I was showing just now, you have 3 routes to be a chartered accountant. The first one, either you are actually from a recognized university and you complete the 3 years of working experience, or if you are recognized or full member of a professional body, you can become a chartered accountant. And however, if you are not from any of those recognized university or professional body, you can then take our qualifying examination, get the 3 years of working experience, and you can then be conferred as a chartered accountant. And yes, for all the students out there, always aim to become a chartered accountant.
Baiklah, nampaknya kita ada soalan lagi, iaitu daripada Shazlin Amira. How can having an outsourced accounting department will help me to manage my business?
Yep, interesting question, Shazlin. Very, very good question from Shazlin. Yeah? How can having an outsourced accounting department will help me to manage the business? That will definitely depends on the size of your organization and also the objective of you outsourcing the accounting department. So things are getting very common these days, not only on the accounting, but also on the secretarial services, whereby we have outsourced services. And to a certain extent, if your particular company is a multinational corporation across the globe, you even have a shared service center or a certain accounting department being placed in one country. And that particular accounting department will then be in charge of certain transactional roles across different companies across the world. So they actually do it is because when we do it, they actually leverage against a common expertise. They have a common consolidation point, and that's where they can actually save costs and resources. And yet, at the same time, they will have a common reporting format when they actually amalgamate and consolidate all the information before sending back to the different countries or different companies respectively. But that depends on the size of the organization. So if you are talking about a very small company, so technically most of the companies may not outsource the accounting department. It's because of the cost involved or probably the complexity of the business. So all in all, it depends on the complexity of the company, whether if the company is based locally or do they have a lot of foreign counterparts, or does it really make sense in the sense that from the economic perspective, it's cheaper to have one country or one shared service accounting department being outsourced to focus and service all other companies across the other nations in the world. So this is how things are being evolved at the moment.
Okay. Seterusnya daripada Wan Ali Firdaus. Is SCCA under the MIA and can Sir explain how to apply SCCA?
All right, good question. Thank you, Wan Alif. So technically, MIA is the statutory body in Malaysia under the Ministry of Finance, and we registered all the accountants. And technically speaking, ACCA is a recognized body by MIA by virtue of the Accountants Act 1967. So along with other professional body, not only ACCA, we have other bodies that I showed just now, like for example, Chartered Accountants of Ireland. We have MICPA, we have CPA Australia, we have ICW. So all of these professional bodies are recognized by MIA under the Accountants Act 1967. And as to how to apply to be a respective professional body, I will suggest maybe you can go through their respective websites because the application is being done individually and independently by those professional bodies themselves. So upon being a full member of that professional body, let's say you are a member of CPA Australia, or you are a member of ICW or a member of MICPA, then you can apply to be a chartered accountant of MIA.
Okay, next question, which is from my father. Muhammad Sharil Abdul Rahman. Normally, how much is the basic salary for a fresh graduate in accountancy?
Good question. Thank you, Muhammad Sharil, for this question. I can't answer that question from the perspective of MIA, but technically, for a basic salary, from a personal perspective, that basic salary has actually changed. Those days, when we still start off on the accountancy profession, it's around 1,000 plus, and then it has now increased all the way to 3,000, depending on the firm that you apply to, and also depending on the company that you're applying. So for some of the bigger audit firms, from what I've been told of, they even offer around 3,000 for fresh graduates, and some of the smaller firms, probably the salary is significantly lower, or some of the commercial organizations, they may have a lower basic salary. But the basic salary for the fresh graduate in accountancy, from a personal perspective, it has been on an increasing trend throughout.
Okay. Next question is from Tengku Muhammad Sharizman, Tengku Abdul Rahmanan. How do I manage a small firm in accountancy? Does it risky? Does it need to be chartered account?
Wonderful question, Tengku Muhammad Sharizman. I think it's a very good question. And yes, in order to manage your firm, technically, yes, you will definitely need a practicing certificate, a PC, and that is where you will need, if you are, for example, if you are interested to establish an audit firm, and then that's where, of course, you yourself will first need to become a chartered accountant, and you need to fulfill certain requirements in order to get the audit license before establishing an audit firm, for example. So technically, if you talk about whether it is risky or not, I believe it will be a very subjective question. So it depends on the involvement of the other partners in your firm, and what are you planning to actually explore. So technically, we have a lot of firms out there in the market, but I will always suggest, and I will always advise, before you actually establish your own firm, you must always get the necessary working experience, get the relevant experience from the different firm before you establish one, so that you will then be able to gauge what are the opportunities and the risks if you are to establish your own firm.
Okay, next question is from Eng Zipin. What's Mr. Leong's perspective or point of views on academics and finance field? How's the prospect, and is it worth it to have a finance or econ degree?
Thank you so much for the question from Eng Zipin. Thank you. And technically, when it comes to the point of view on the economics and the finance field, I would definitely are of the view that if you are an accounting student, or you are a graduate from the accounting, economics, or the finance field, accounts is definitely one of the area I would rather say it is a recession-proof profession, because no matter what the economy is all about, whether is it on an inclining trend, or whether is it on a recession, we will always need an expert, or probably someone with the accounting knowledge, to be able to guide us through and to be able to manage the particular economic situation. So all in all, when you talk about accounting, definitely that particular area of expertise is needed, no matter what the current economic condition in. And in terms of the prospect and is it worthy to have a finance or economics degree, I can't tell for the economics or finance degree, but technically if you are purely in the accounting or if you are in the finance and economics degree, definitely those are one of those many degrees that will give you a lot of versatility and also your ability to do a lot of diversification across various industry. Like you can involve in the treasury, or we can probably involve in the risk management, or being an economics analyst or a financial analyst, and also being an accountant or an auditor. So all of these business related qualifications are always very well sought after. But more importantly, I would say having a basic degree probably may not be sufficient. If you wanted to further progress, you may definitely need to continue to upskill and also be able to differentiate yourself with the rest when you have additional edge in things like the technical skill sets or your IT or your digital skill sets. Those are very important additional additions that you can have to your CV.
All right. So we go to the next question. It's from Shakira Nasir. Terdapat perangkaan daripada kerajaan kita mengatakan bahawa Bureau Perakaunan dan Pengauditan akan dihapuskan pada masa hadapan dan akan digantikan mesin apa? Pendapat Mr. Leong.
Terima kasih ya Shakira atas soalan ni ya. I think very good question, and we have heard a lot like with the technology, and we have a lot of machinery, the IR 4.0. It has always been claimed that those will replace all of us, especially the accountant. Technically, we can't actually say that the machinery is going to replace us, but rather the machinery is going to replace the transactional roles, meaning those roles that are more transactional and that doesn't require a lot of thought process. Those will be replaced by technology. There's no doubt about it. So that's where we, as the accounting graduate, we will need to continue to upskill ourselves so that we can be competent and we are able to embrace and use the digital tools. Because out there in the market, there are a lot of data. We are talking about data analytics. We are talking about big data. So the accountants out there in the market play an important role because they will need to have the ability to process the data, to be able to analyze the data, and more importantly, they are able to churn out the analysis so that they can continue to make strategic decision making. So there are a lot of other things like professional skepticism, professional judgment, the critical thinking. All of these can only be processed by our own human, and those machinery may not be able to replicate those skill set. So all in all, machinery will not replace it. It will only replace the transactional role, and that's where the accountants will need to evolve to be able to embrace new role and to be able to use the technology to actually make their work more efficient.
All right. Next question from Shazlin Amira. Your accountants cannot be replaced by artificial intelligence platforms will definitely be a major bond for accountants in audit teams across the world, isn't it?
Very interesting question. Thank you, Shazlin Amira. And yes, when I first do stock count, like I was sharing just now in my earlier slide, saya pergi Lamongan kan. I went to Lamongan, we do a physical stock count. And things now are very more canggih lah. We even have a drone doing the stock count. You no longer need to be there. You use a drone, fly there, and you see things. So even if you're talking about data, those days we actually go into the storeroom and we pull out the document, we do vouching. So these days we no longer talk about the physical document. We're talking about millions of transactions of data. We talk about software who can be able to churn out the details. But yes, those software will be able to ease you in terms of the transactional roles, and they can actually help you to produce certain result. But the interpretation of the result, the strategic decision making that you need to do as a result of those data, the ability to to use the tool, the ability to actually utilize the platform, and the ability to be able to leverage your knowledge across other department or other division, or probably across the different field of knowledge. Those are the skill sets that will continue to become relevant. And yes, AI platform will definitely play a role, no doubt about it. But it will only change the way that we do things, but it will not replace us.
Next question from Nurul Hidayah. Is accountant job stressful generally?
No, definitely no. Accountants are fun. Kan I tengah senyum kan sepanjang malam. So tengok Cikgu dia tengah senyum. So we will never be saying that accountant is a stressful job because I will believe that if you face any challenge, you must always remain patient to overcome the challenges. And in fact, the accountant job is a very fun job. It gives you a lot of different perspective in life, and you can utilize the accounting knowledge not solely to become an accountant. You can even use it for your own business, to open your own Ramly burger store, for example. Use your financial literacy, and that accounting knowledge gives you a lot of opportunity to diverse your profession. And it's definitely a very fun job, and I've been enjoying it till today.
Okay, next question from Reese. Hello, sir. Normally in a company, how many accountants are there? Is it limited?
Okay, thank you, Riz. That depends on the size of the company, to be very honest, and that is why I believe earlier on we have a question that talks about should we outsource the accounting department. So it depends on the size of the organization. Like some of the organization that I've audited before, we have almost like 20 to 30 accountants, and some of the companies I have seen before, those are only around like probably 10 or less. So it depends on the nature and the complexity of the company. So it will be different from one company to another.
Okay, sorry. Next question from Muhammad Syari Abdul Rahman. What is your opinion about our country current deficit account and how to overcome it? How to overcome it to be at the break-even point?
This is a very challenging question. Thank you, Muhammad Sharil. I believe I can't comment on the current deficit account at the moment, but technically, what I would suggest is, being a citizen of Malaysia, we should always work very hard. We can actually support our family and continue to work hard to strive across all the challenges, especially in view of the COVID pandemic. And more importantly, I will still say that despite the challenges of the COVID pandemic out there, the accountancy profession remains resilient and very strong.
Okay, next question from the Muhammad Syari Abdul Rahman, still the same person. Due to the pandemic COVID outbreak tremendously, do you think it is possible the accountant work can be done fully at home?
Yeah, thank you, Cheryl, for the question. Yes, because of the COVID pandemic, it is definitely possible for the accountant to be done fully at home, especially if certain companies have adopt IT tools and they are very conversant with a digital platform. They are able to do it, and I believe because of the COVID pandemic, things have also changed. For the past 2 years, especially like those days when we have the career talk back then, we always have the physical career talk, and I believe these days we have more online classes and also the online assessment. The students are more comfortable like with StreamYard, with YouTube Live, and also with other platform like the Zoom platform or the Microsoft Teams. Things are changing, and we can clearly see that the employers out there are also embracing the technology more, and are definitely having a certain mentality or a mindset whereby it is possible to allow the employees to work from home. And in fact, in other countries, they are even encouraging that to be done permanently, even when the COVID pandemic is over.
Okay, so the next question is from AO4 Stephanie Judita Sebastian. When you are not planning to study for SCCA, which course is better, HR or accounting for degree?
Thank you, Stephanie, Judita. I think this question will be a bit more personal, so I can't really say, if HR or accounting degree is better. With all due respect, we have a lot of HR graduates and also accounting graduates who are equally successful upon their graduation. So I can't really comment which degree is better. or whether is it relevant if you are to study for ACCA. Unfortunately, my apologies for that. But technically, I myself is an accounting graduate, so I would definitely advise, for those students who are still doing accounting, be patient and remain in the degree or the program so that you can be a successful accountant.
Alright, next question is from Aaron Winter Anak Jackson. To be an accounting teacher, need to get SACA or not?
Oh, I don't think so. That probably Madam Fizi may be able to address that question better, but I don't think it is a mandatory requirement for you to have a certain affiliation with a professional body in order to become an accounting teacher. Definitely it's not. But as far as I'm concerned, if you're talking about the MQA program, Standards of Accounting, in order for you to teach like at degree level, you have a certain prerequisite, like you have a master's degree in order for you to teach certain program. So it depends on the requirements as set by both the MQA and also the MOHA.
So I think this is the last question for today. It's from Natasha. Is AdMed important for account course in college?
Oh, thanks, Natasha. Oh, this is a very common question that we always get. I think all of us being a student pun pernah tanya soalan ni kan. Is FMAT really important or not? I myself, I did AdMath, and honestly, AdMath is my favorite subject last time when I was a student. So if you ask me, is AdMath an important element? There are different school of thought. A lot of people are saying that if you have AdMath, you will have a lot of critical thinking skill sets when it comes to accounting, and it helps a lot. We have heard a lot of such comments, but if you were to ask me, or from a personal viewpoint, being someone who has studied MS, being my most favorite subject, and also having done my accounting, I would say that yes, MS play a role when it comes to my accounting, but it is not a mandatory requirement for you to actually pursue accounting. And that is where we have a lot of top-notch accounting graduates who may not have actually done LMS before.
Okey, baiklah. Dengan itu, saya tutup sesi soal jawab. Terima kasih Mr. Leong atas kesemua jawapan yang diberikan. Untuk makluman semua, link kehadiran dan link quiz ada dipaparkan di ruangan chat. Kedua-dua link akan ditutup 30 minit selepas sesi live ini berakhir. Dan sila jawab soalan quiz yang diberikan kerana ada hadiah yang menanti anda. Sedar tak sedar, kita sudah pun sampai ke penghujung rancangan. Apa yang dapat saya rumuskan di sini ialah untuk bergelar Chartered Accountant ataupun Akauntan Bertauliah, pelajar hendaklah mendaftar dan menjadi ahli Malaysian Institute of Accountants MIA. Ada banyak kelebihan yang akan diperolehi setelah anda bergelar Akauntan Bertauliah. Saya mewakili pihak University Matrikulation Entrepreneurship Carnival 2022 amat berbesar hati dan mengucapkan berbanyak terima kasih atas kesudian Mr. Leong hadir bersama-sama dengan kita pada hari ini. Terima kasih Mr. Leong Foong. Semoga apa yang disampaikan tadi dapat dimanfaatkan oleh kita semua. Sebelum mengundur diri, saya ingin mengingatkan sekali lagi, sidang hadirin sekalian yang mengikuti slot webinar ini agar mengisi kehadiran masing-masing, menggunakan link yang diberikan dan jawab soalan quiz kedua-dua link tersebut akan ditutup 30 minit setelah sesi live ini berakhir. Sebagai menutup tirai sesi webinar kita pada hari ini, pesanan dari saya berharap sesi perkongsian ini dapat memberi impak positif dan manfaat kepada semua. Sekian sahaja buat kali ini. Wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.